So welcome everyone to our first, hopefully our first of many TLB discussions. We posted the live discussion over our Facebook page, and please feel free to leave a comment for us. If you have any questions, most certainly leave one there, and we'll try to go over to the Facebook page. We got some people watching for us as well, so that'll be great. Well, tonight we have Marilyn with us. She's an admin on the Liberal Voice page, and she's been with us, oh goodness, probably, I don't know, Marilyn, probably from below the hundreds, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I think it was 50 likes.
Wow, yeah. So that's pretty cool. And we also have Patrick. He's also one of the contributors over at the Liberal Voice, and I'm sure he posts some interesting things. I don't get to see them all. It seems like we have quite a bit of stuff going on the page from time to time. So thanks, guys, for joining us. It looks like we're at, last I checked, around 3,086 likes. Is that right?
Yeah.
No, we just got one more.
Oh,
did we?
Yeah.
Right
awesome. Yeah, right on, exactly. And the number keeps growing every day, which is kind of cool. And it wouldn't be possible without people sharing our pages. And apparently they like some of the stuff that we post. So that's kind of nice. So tonight's title is "What's Wrong with Republicans?"
We have an hour. Is that the time limit? Because
we got a couple. We got a couple hours if we want.
Okay.
I think the max is 4, but
Okay.
I think we have plenty of time to fill in with what
Well,
we
we
got.
could do multiple sessions here to discuss this.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think it was Marilyn that actually posted. It's like a letter. It goes down different topics and discusses a few different things. And essentially it starts off with dear Republicans and conservatives. And the first thing that she spoke of was sexuality. And I also noticed that she posted a nice graphic today on that as well. So Marilyn, what say you on this post that you made here?
Well, I was just getting so fed up with just the ideas of everything coming out of the news and out of Congress, and how it just seems that everything that Barack Obama stands for, we must oppose it because our #1 priority is to get this man out of office. And it just seems that everything that they say contradicts everything else. And I honestly want to understand their point of view, but it just seems that everything that they stand for just makes no sense to me. And, to start with the sexuality, they oppose abortion and contraception. Now, I understand we don't want to kill little babies, whatever you believe or whatever, on the abortion issue, but why tell women that contraception is also taboo and not okay? Why do they want women reproducing like crazy, it seems, or abstaining? That's really the only thing I've heard, and they're just not realistic ideas in this day and age. And to add to it, they're against gay marriage. It's an obvious civil rights issue. You're obviously telling people what they can and cannot do, and it makes no sense to me because it's like they're telling people what they can and cannot do, and yet all they argue is we don't want government to get too big, and yet they're trying to put their morals on everybody. It just doesn't seem right to me. It seems really backwards and messed up.
Well, do you want the Senate point of view?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. If you look at the southern voting bloc, mainly evangelical Christians, if you look at the rural voting bloc in other states, even in my state, Wisconsin, you have a lot of fundamentalist Christian voters who are, for the most part, single-issue voters. I see a lot of pandering. I'm not sure how much of what they talk is what they actually believe. I see a lot of cynicism. I see a lot of Republican lawmakers and I'm going to say pundits. I hate the word, but there it is. And they come out and they say, this is what we want. But is it really, or is it a cynical ploy to get the Christian voting bloc? I mean, is this a Karl Rove tactic, or are they sincere? And I think, Marilyn, you're probably a very kind person, giving them the benefit of the doubt. But you can see I'm a little older, better on the block a couple times, and I have seen this sort of nonsense from the Nixon administration on. And these guys are just, as far as I'm concerned, pandering to get the votes of the single-issue voters. I mean, why keep that issue alive?
Yeah.
That's my view.
It just seems like non-issues, and especially with Fox News just really, really pushing these issues. And I listen to people talk about abortion especially. It's like, why is this still an issue? This is over 30, what is it, 33? Oh, no, it's exactly 30 years old, 1973.
40.
No, it's 40 years old.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Roe v. Wade, 40th anniversary on the inauguration day, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 40 years, and then 3 years later, they say, okay, but government funds cannot go towards abortions or contraception. Or no, is it contraception? But I know... I got to look that up. But I know in 76, something overturned it and said Medicaid will not cover abortions, Planned Parenthood will not cover abortions. And my question is why do they not do the same thing with welfare benefits or with unemployment insurance and say, you know what, if we're giving you government taxpayer money, you're not allowed to buy alcohol or cigarettes because those are bad for you. You know, they don't do that with other government funds, but they tell women, oh, you can't get an abortion at all at any point if you are receiving government funds.
Well, I'm not going to contradict you. I'd just like to bring up a quick point. I'm a seasonal worker, so I collect unemployment insurance all winter long. First of all, it is an insurance program. It's paid into by the employers, and part of our taxes actually go into that program as well. So it's an insurance program, and not actually a government fund. It's a government-administered fund. Scott Walker's Act 10 here in Wisconsin took a week of unemployment funding off the table for everyone across the board.
Wow.
They're taking away a $363 payment of unemployment insurance to me, and it's across the board. These people are looking to break up the cohesiveness of unions. They're looking to put more ignorance in the voting booth. There is more. I mean, you're talking about what they're creating, and I think there's more destruction than creation.
Yeah, absolutely. I read one of the responses to this letter that I wrote, and they called the Republicans the party of no. And, it's just this conversation of, when you talk to somebody and say, well, what do you want to do for dinner? Well, I'm not really sure. What do you want? Well, how about Chinese? No. Okay, how about pizza? No. Well, how about this? And it seems like the Republicans are just bringing nothing to the table to solve real problems that people are undergoing right now. And domestically, we're in a lot of trouble in this country. So they need to bring a little bit more than just no to the table at this point. And they're going to get themselves elected out or, just thrown out of office in 2 years if they don't start putting real answers out there.
Yeah, it's definitely been a situation of no, and no. And then I listen to right-wing talk show all the time, just so I can be informed about what the other side is saying. The outright lies that go on is definitely not something that I'm shocked by, I guess is the word. But talking about things like, the president hasn't passed a budget in how many years? It's not that he hasn't brought one down. It's not necessarily up to him to pass the budget. There's just no compromise. There's always a no, it seems like, from the other side. And, it's gotten to a point where, going back to the abortion issue and sexuality and such, where these people vote based on one topic. And I know lots of people who do that. I grew up in a very religious home, evangelical, even Baptist fundamentalist, and even though you would say something along the lines of, well, you're just voting on abortion. No, 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 no. I look at the candidate for all the topics, and when it comes down to it, just this year with Mitt Romney, and I had a discussion with some of my family about it, and it came down to, I said, Obama and Romney look very similar if you actually listen to what Romney said a few years ago, or the way he said something yesterday compared to the guy was all over the place. But it does seem like there's a trying to dumb down certain people, use that religious card at some point to kind of make people vote with a one-issue situation, you know. So, and I actually think that that's one of the topics that Republicans, the conservatives, just need to give up. You know,
Right.
And a coworker of mine said, you know, at work, he was like, it doesn't matter if someone is pro-life or pro-choice, whether or not they get an abortion or even have access to contraceptives. You just need to give it up. It doesn't matter what the situation is around it. It's not going to win. And he ends the conversation that says, well, probably in the next 20, 30 years, the baby boomers will be all gone. And
I'm a baby boomer.
50 years. 50 years.
50 years.
Now, his point essentially was, you know, is eventually going to go by the wayside. It just may take some time.
I'm hoping that is the case. I'm reading these articles about how Republicans are devising ways to steal elections. And in my opinion, you know, what happened in 2000 with George Bush was absolutely ridiculous. And I understand, you know, the Electoral College, and he won technically, and all that hoopla with Florida. And you remember the guy, that idiot, sitting there counting? He was like examining each card because he knew it was being videotaped. But
hanging chats.
Yeah, but it is absolutely horrible to me that, you know, we're real people out here, and we're just totally unacknowledged by government, corporation, and the big money game. We're just these senseless drones that work to pay taxes. We just keep pumping it into the system, and the system doesn't work. It's not working for us right now. The president, I feel, is trying to make it work. I feel like he really is trying to listen to people, and it's just this ongoing, like, oh, he's doing this, oh, they're doing that, and we're the ones who have to kind of stand in the middle here and suffer through it.
Yeah, well, if I look at, you know, the trend of history, are these guys dinosaurs? Probably, but in the meantime, I do think there is a dumbing down. If you can put out the sort of propaganda that I've seen on, let's say, the Second Amendment issue that's currently in the news because of the Sandy Hook shootings. Some of the propaganda I've seen involves a poster that just says, weapons, Obama wants to take our weapons away, and you have to have a background check, and you have to have this, and you have to have that, and they're going to put them all in an armory, and you'll have to check them in and out. And then it says, President of the United States, no background check. Well,
I saw that one.
Yeah, I remember. You know, it's just a stupid meme, but this is the kind of stuff these people are running with. And the more people that you can get, and this goes to the abortion issue, okay, the more people that you can get that are going to be, and then let's have the babies, then let's underfund education. There's a congressman in North Carolina that just proposed a bill, oh no, it was Tennessee, I'm sorry, who wants to tie the parents' welfare payments to their kids' grades. And yeah, because
the kids cannot ever be held accountable for anything.
Well, sure, and it's just like this kind of silliness that you know. I mean, let's underfeed them, let's undereducate them, let's put their butts in. And you know, if I'm offending anyone, well, that's the way it is. But let's put their butts in church pews when they're young, so we get them indoctrinated, get them thinking a certain way. I personally was raised in a Catholic home, and I can't even begin to tell you the amount of indoctrination I received. But a lot of that spoke directly to the politics of abortion. And I've seen so many bumper stickers that say, if you're Catholic, how can you be pro-choice? You can't be both.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of dichotomy they're trying to create with this sort of nonsense. With it's an either-or proposition. There are no gray areas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely see that. There's really, it's just one way or the other, and that's the problem here that we're talking about. Is if you can't compromise on something little, and going back to even like the Second Amendment stuff you're talking about, we're not saying take all the weapons away, but they
no one has ever said this.
No, but
I just want to say that no one has ever said go in the homes and get everybody's weapon. Just
no, but the conspiracy behind that is, well, once they get, it's a slippery slope. I hear this word all the time, and it drives me nuts. But the majority of my friends that are on my own Facebook personal page, I have a lot of religious friends, and they have come out of the woodwork with Second Amendment rights, and I'm like,
yeah.
You maybe have said, are you talking about the American Jesus, the gun-toting guy, or are you talking about the one who went around killing people for free, and gave them free health care? It's like, seriously, we're not coming to take your guns away, Yeah. But is there really a reason to? I collect guitars. Some people collect. Yeah, some people collect guns.
Whatever.
Exactly. And I think the thing with that though is more understanding and understanding the idea that goes behind the mental health issue that comes along with people who do deranged things like this. And I saw one meme that talked about it's easier to walk in to get a gun or a weapon than it is to get mental health. And at first when I see that, I'm thinking people who have mental health issues, they're not necessarily running off to the doctor to get help.
No.
No.
So, it's a taboo issue. When you are mentally unstable, the last thing you want to do is admit that you're mentally unstable. So you're not going to go get help. The only way that people who are mentally unstable are going to get help is if they have people in their lives who are going to push for it, and they actually care about those people in their lives enough to go along with it. It's a very, very difficult thing. On top of which, I read somewhere that the last time that we had suffered massacres to this extent in this country was right around the time of the Great Depression. So is there a correlation between a very poor economy and, people are just so wrapped up in their own issues that they're not paying attention to their friends and family the way that they should be? That, somebody's going to go home and, oh, mom's got all these guns in my cabinet, so let me go grab them and go to a school and, just go. And there is no sense of it. There is no reason for it.
It speaks to a larger sort of a dialogue that's going on in the Republican Party, and that is that each of these things, these shootings and mental health, and let's talk about the amount of people that we have locked in prison. I mean, highest prison population in the world, including China, and that's not per capita. That's total. We privatize the prisons. We criminalize or stigmatize being gay. We criminalize or stigmatize mental illness, smoking marijuana. The thing that you talk about in the 30s was the result of the Great Depression, and people going out and saying, you know what, I have a Tommy gun, I have a sawed-off shotgun, I'm going to go get me some money. And the massacres were a direct result of a completely and utterly unregulated gun environment. You could buy an automatic weapon at the hardware store, 45 caliber Thompson submachine gun. Regulation took care of a lot of that, but we're talking about shootings as if it's not a public health issue. And regardless of whether that person is mentally ill waving a gun around in the mall, it's still a public health issue. My health is in jeopardy in public because whoever's got a gun. And to criminalize things like mental illness, to criminalize things like social marijuana use, when we don't criminalize alcohol, it's just love life, liberty, and the
Well,
pursuit of happiness. You know,
part of those massacre times happened because of Prohibition. Organized crime came
Yep.
right out of Prohibition. So
well, by definition, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, who owns the trade when it's prohibited? The criminals,
Exactly.
by definition. So yeah.
Exactly.
And I think what we're talking about here is public health. I don't know.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think that when you look at what they're doing is they're pushing back on every issue that would give us more freedom to either be safe, be healthy, be well fed, be medically taken care of. And they push back and they use words like socialism, which goes back to being uneducated. People that use the word socialism for Obama, I mean, he's an Eisenhower Republican, for God's sake.
Yes,
Yes.
100%
You know?
I'm like, what are you talking about? He's a purple moderate.
Yeah.
He really is. And honestly, I would rather get rid of. I made this other meme about the rhinos. And yes, I know rhinoceros is RHINO. People have been trying to correct me on this all day. I'm like, oh. No, Republican in name only. So, yep, there it is. But I would rather replace all of the red and the dark blue with a whole Congress full of purple, because at least then we know we have people who are willing to work together and compromise. Because if you can't at least bring that willingness to the table, get out. You know, it's turned into a situation of like,
Good meme.
we're going to bully, and the Democrats just kind of bend over and say, well, we'll compromise. And I think that the rift has turned into the Democrats and the people have been standing up and saying, don't take this crap anymore. We're done.
Yeah.
Don't let them get away with this anymore. And the Democrats are finally, you know, sticking their feet in the ground and saying, no, enough is enough. You cannot do this to the public.
Yeah, I definitely I agree with that. It's you know, with the last, they're talking about the I guess we can go on the economy as well here too. Is you know, it's getting towards the end of the year, the tax break issue, you know, and trying to come to some sort of agreement and trying to get that pushed through and such. And like, yes, we did it. It's awesome, but guess what? The Social Security tax break went out the window, and a lot of people, you know, were very upset about that. And the majority of them on my Facebook, my personal Facebook, was Republicans. Look what Obama's done. Look what he's done. The man was trying to keep it in.
Yeah.
You know. But these right wing pundits, right? They just push that side of it, knowing full well what the truth is, but are purposefully deceiving the listener. You know, and I try to explain to some people who I have a discussion with. You know, I have people, we talk about welfare issues, you know, and they see, oh, 90% of the people that come in for health care services are on welfare. Well, you know, maybe that's the situation where you're at, where you work in a inner city hospital. That may be the case. But you got to go look up the figures, not just use your own upbringing like I was.
Your
we
own
looked
environment.
At our own environment. When I grew up, it was that way. It was, oh, well, they're on welfare. They get paid to stay home. And, you know, and then I look up the numbers myself and I see over 90% of it goes to Social Security, Medicare, social programs. It's not the people who actually need the food stamp assistance or the children. And they talk about how there's so much fraud in that system, and it really isn't as bad as they try to make it out. And the part that gets me the most is when I ask them, how much did you pay in tax last year? Majority of them are under the tax bracket where they pretty much paid no federal income tax anyway. You know?
So what are you griping about?
No, they are getting, but when it comes time to an entitlement or a benefit like Medicare or Social Security or one of those disability benefits, they'll say, well, I paid into the system.
Right. and you look at the red states, and they're collecting actually most of the
More.
federal money's paid out in entitlements.
Yes.
And that's
Right.
that's the Head Start program and Foods for Kids, and like you said, kids. Excuse me. The percentage of fraud is so low that it's negligible on a statistical level, but it goes back to what I was saying. Let's keep them pregnant, stupid, and working all the time, and that way they don't have time to Snopes it.
Yeah.
And I think they want us stupid, or they want they want 50% at least, or 51% stupid.
50.1%.
Yeah,
Thank you. Good enough. Yeah.
It's so true. You just have to say, when someone asks me a question, they pose from opposing side, I say, have you gone to the Congressional Budget Office? Have you looked up the actual numbers? Well, no. They're so trusting, because a lot of these people that I know are religious. They're so trusting that this person is not going to lie to me. I'm going to trust what they say. But they're out for their own gain and benefit, and they'll even use the Bible or religious phrases or issues just to keep them pushed down.
Yeah.
Right. Cherry pick it too.
Yeah. It's driving people by fear. If you don't do what we say, then that's not what God wants. You're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
It's like, well, who are you? Who made you like this jurisdiction over what God wants?
Right.
Why are people so afraid to look inside what they think, and really do some soul searching? I was raised Catholic as well, but, Northeast, very, very liberal Catholic church. And the idea was, you've got to figure out what your own faith is. Use the church for your questions. Use it as a tool to harness that and develop it. But ultimately, whatever your faith is comes down to between you and whatever you choose to make it into.
Right.
So there's no outside person who can tell you what to believe. And I think that I just wonder if there's some way to convey that message further. It's like, I don't care if you're an atheist or if you're a Christian or if you're a Muslim or whatever you are.
Muslim? Wait a minute here. This country was founded on the baby Jesus.
Yeah. I actually read a comment that someone had posted on Facebook that said that it was in the Ten Commandments that we have the right to bear arms. Of course, bear was spelled B-A-R-E. So it may be, in fact, in one of the older translations. I don't know. But I look at people being told what to do, what to think, and I see that most people get their information from one source, and whether that's a church, whether that's Fox News or Rush Limbaugh, they're in an echo chamber. I mean, if I hear something that, when Barack Obama signed the Indefinite Detention Act, I was freaked out by that, but I knew about it. I wasn't happy about it. There's not everything that he does, not everything that every Democrat does am I going to get behind and go, oh, wow, that's amazing. I'm a critical thinker.
Yes.
And that's a real handicap if you're going to have any sort of faith or believe one source. If I'm going to go to God for all the answers, well, then and the difference between reading the Bible and having the Bible read to you, I think is what we're talking about here. These people are told the cherry-picked version of almost everything, including the Benghazi incident or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
They get one version.
Yeah.
And I know a couple.
Yeah, there's always that. What I used to say is there's three sides to every story. Really two. Because there is one that's actually true. But and again, just like you're saying, I don't agree with every issue a Democrat says or liberal says. I'm sure there's some great things that Paul Ryan. I'm sure there's some great things. But even to that point,
maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow.
But even to that point, how well did he do with his own town with voting? I thought that he didn't do quite so well with his constituents up there.
Well, he got his congressional seat back. But
Yeah. I saw the interview. Did you see the interview with his? I think it was his history teacher.
Yeah.
His high school history teacher, who was like, "Yeah, no, I won't be voting for him." And they're like, "Well, why not?" And he's like, "Because I'm a teacher. I'm liberal. I'm a Democrat. I'm not going to vote for him."
Well, yeah, Act 10 radicalized a whole segment of the population here in Wisconsin. And teachers, you know, well, already probably a great majority left-leaning became radicalized by Act 10. I was up in Madison the whole winter protesting against it.
Nice.
And it was in the tens of thousands of people. So you're not going to get guys like Ryan called on the carpet when you have the kind of long-term moneyed support that he has, especially in Wisconsin. The Koch brothers were big contributors to the Ryan campaign, and I think that when you get to the bottom of any of these issues, Maryland, because you wrote the letter, it's predominantly a one answer, one denominator under the line, and that is follow the money.
Yeah.
And I think that these people are so involved with the money, with the Keystone Pipeline, and how much money the oil companies have given to Republican legislators.
Was it a? I thought it was during the Bush administration where they lifted some kind of law on how much money any corporation is allowed to give to campaigns. Isn't there something along those lines?
Yeah, that's the corporate personhood ruling was a direct result of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing they need to do is really seriously buckle down and get these rich, you-know-whats, just stop. Start grassrooting all over again like they did right at the beginning and get real people in there.
Yeah. Real
people. And, what I have heard and read is that the majority of people in Congress actually do go in there with good intention. It's just that once they get there, there's this game that they have to play, and they're forced to make these decisions. It's not like they go in like, oh yeah, I'm going to go in and make all this money from lobbyists and it's going to be awesome. I think they actually really do go in with a genuine feeling of wanting to get something done. But once they are there, something needs to be done to stop the games that are being played and actually keep that mentality there.
Yeah, there was a big push for the Tea Party. It was back in 2008, I guess, right? And a lot of those people, got put into their seats and such, and I don't really think they knew what they were doing. People wanted some sort of change. They felt like they were being, taxed, whatever. But these people went in with not really that much idea of what they were doing. So again, they just went along and had to follow the flow. And I'm sure some of them follow the money as well. But I don't know how many lost their seats or where it's coming up. But yeah, there was definitely that big push. And so I guess that they I don't know. I guess they aren't doing much in Congress these days. Really don't hear too much about them. Every once in a while I hear someone on the radio talking about the great Michelle Bachmann and things like that, and I think, you gotta be kidding me.
Well, you saw Ron Johnson, right?
Yeah, Johnson's one of them.
Yeah. I know, I'm so proud of Wisconsin.
Oh, that's right.
I bet you were.
Yes. Threw out Russ Feingold and bought himself the yep. And Russ Feingold is really one of the coolest politicians out there. He's a thinker. He's a critical thinker. He's progressive as all get out. And Ron Johnson essentially bought himself a Senate seat. Now, my dad used to ask this question. My dad was a very staunch Democrat, as most of my family come from a large Irish Catholic family. And he used to say, why would you spend $12 million to get a $300,000 a year job? Well, how much of this is megalomania, power seeking? Are we giving in to these people because they seek it? Are we watching the ascendancy of greed? I mean, if you look at what they're spending to achieve this sort of political power, there must be something in it for them. I mean, Ron Johnson's already rich.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what he doesn't need the job.
I also there is more to it than just the $300,000. Oh, that's your little pocket change.
Exactly.
There is a lot of money to be made down there. You know, I had posted a video. I was just watching The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy.
Right.
and it was just like, okay, well, we're gonna have some hunting and some fishing, and they're flown in by private jet, and then we have this chef from France, and he's like, and you don't want anything from us? Well, we just want you to listen to our point of view, because the gun control nuts think that all this is horrible, and it's just a nice hunting rifle that we want to use. And then they make that awesome scene where they're just blowing bullets into the air and missing every single duck. And then one finally falls out of the sky, and he's like, must have had a heart attack. So
I know that's exactly what I'm saying, is that the intangible benefit of power is let's say to influence legislation that makes it easier to pollute the air, pollute the water, exploit workers, not pay fair wages. Where's the employer's advantage in having a crappy health insurance plan if there's a public option? Where's the advantage? So the intangible benefits are that they can make it easier for themselves to get richer, get more power, and make it easier for their friends. I mean, Ron Johnson doesn't sit down and have lunch with me 3 times a week, or his workers. I'll guarantee it. But who does he sit down and have lunch with? You know, and these are the questions that people don't ask.
Yeah, it is definitely all about the networking that they do down there. I mean, like you say, the pay is nothing. It's what they can do later on, or at the same time, with making their deals with the lobbying groups that they have, you know, and to sacrifice, you know, a vote for fair wages, clean air, clean water, just so they can get more influence with more power, more money. Definitely do see that going on.
You know, something was really, really poignant that was mentioned was that, you know, well, we're accepting lobbying money from 2 opposing positions. You know, like we have the oil companies that want to dump all this money into us, but at the same time we have the environmental companies that are dumping all this money into us. So if we're accepting all this money, how does anything get solved up here? And said, it doesn't. That's the beauty of it. We just get to keep collecting all the lobby money, and nothing's ever going to get solved. Well, you know, then there's a massive problem there. There's a lot of truth to that, and that's just a massive problem. Then maybe the money needs to not be an influence anymore, because obviously it isn't influeing. It's useless where it's going, and it needs to be put to better use.
It's beyond useless because it actually harms.
Yes.
Yes.
Uselessness
would be a great situation to have that money being.
Yeah. One of the greatest things that the Republican Party, those in power, are doing right now is to instead look at the top 400 families in this country that own the majority of the wealth. It's looking at the people who are just below them in income and saying they are the problem. Not the people whose income has just soared, you know, for the past 30 years.
They're the American dream. They're what everybody needs to strive to be.
And that's the lie that I've tried to point out to people, is, you know, if you work hard, if you do your best, you can be a millionaire someday. Like, no, that's not how it works. Yes, you can work hard, you can make a decent living, decent wage, whatever. Some people do become millionaires. But it's not as simple as, if you just do this. There's a lot more to it than that, you know.
Well, that's just it. people, and once again, the simplistic thinking of that, the simplistic mindset that says that if you just work hard, then you can be a million. No, it doesn't work like that. This is reality, and we have to live here with you while you're trying to earn your $1 million by working hard. And what you're doing is actually counterproductive, because you're listening to people that are lying to you instead of investigating it for yourself. And I think that the message that the Democratic Party has been espousing through the last 40 years that I can remember, I'm 53, is that look, we work for you. We work for the working man. The other party, they're already bought and sold. And I think we need to advance that message that and just say it like it is. I mean, people start screaming class warfare. Well, it's only class warfare if we fight back.
Yes. It's not really a war if we just lay down and take it.
Right, exactly. So, I think that what you're talking about, Marilyn, is being encouraged by, seeing the Democrats dig their heels in and say, look, enough is enough. But I live in Wisconsin. So, yeah. Where are you from, Tom?
Upstate New York.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
both New Yorkers. There is kind of a feeling of helplessness being a liberal New Yorker, because
everyone is
everywhere.
Up here, right?
Everyone is up here, so it's like, okay, so we all vote Democrat, and New York's going to be a blue state every single year, forever and ever and ever.
Except for Reagan.
Except for
Oh, I just got punched in the guts. That felt good. Thanks. My first election.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta give people a break, because poor Carter was telling people you gotta stop spending money, and there was a gas strike. So
yeah, there was an oil embargo a few years before that, and I know the reasons, but being in a battleground state, being in I call it the heart of darkness. I have a good friend who's an organizer here, Stephen, and oddly enough, we both came up with the name independently. We live in the most Republican county in Wisconsin.
Oh,
Waukesha County. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is public. Wow. On my address too? No. Here's the thing. When I see people from blue states, then you're doing something right. We lost a recall election that we never should have lost.
Yeah.
Because their message was, and it was just this, that the Democrats are trying to start a class war. And whose side are you on? It's either or. It's red and blue.
Yeah.
And most people, especially in Wisconsin, for whatever reason, will stay with the status quo. They will reelect the incumbent year after year after year. Except for Russ Feingold, but we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. And the idea going back to the unions in Wisconsin, I mean, I followed that, those sit-ins for days, and even the Fox News coverage with the palm trees, that they had, that was pretty funny. Yeah. And talking to people who are so adamant against unions, and they say, well, they were good at one point. They helped, people where it was like they were dying in warehouse fires and things like that. And then today it's different, because it's not warehouse fires anymore. It's income, it's wages, it's money, it's benefits, it's those things. And for some reason that cuts into them, thinking that how can they be doing better getting paid $35 an hour? Well, why is the CEO of the company making 400 times what their average salary worker does? Again, it goes back to that they've just turned it around on their fellow human being who is at the same level as them, rather than looking up to the top and saying, wait a minute, shouldn't we all be kind of climbing together with our income?
Yeah.
A little bit here?
Yeah.
Divide and conquer. That's Walker's stated strategy.
Yeah. And the horrible part is that the dumbed down people are the ones being told all these lies by people who could give two shits about them.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are fighting the battles. They're the ones who are voting these people in.
Mhm.
They're the ones who are believing all the propaganda and the garbage, and it's just, and there's no way to just reason with them. There's
No.
no way, it just feels so useless to try and educate them.
Well, what are we doing?
We're going on Facebook.
Okay.
We're trolling.
We're trolling like crazy. I'm under every bridge I can find. Absolutely. But what are we? You know, I mean, personally, I have a victory story. You know, short but sweet. Kid came to my house, had his entire car plastered with, and this was for the election that Bush ran against Gore in 2000, and his entire car was plastered with bumper stickers, Bush bumper stickers, Bush Cheney bumper stickers, and I talked to the kid for about 2 hours. He was a first-time voter, and when he left, my girlfriend called me to the window of our apartment and said, "Take a look at this." And I looked out the window, and there he was tearing all the stickers off his car.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, let's do this one person at a time. Let's do it on Facebook. Let's confront the ignorance wherever we see it. But I think, you know, to go back to Mitt Romney's 47% remark, you're looking at a certain segment of the population that is just unteachable. And furthermore doesn't want to be taught.
Yeah.
That this is, you know, they don't have a set of ideas on public policy. They have beliefs. And I think a belief is so much harder to change than an idea.
Right.
Because a belief is pretty much set in stone.
Right.
This is what I believe.
Yeah.
This is my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, even when confronted with the facts.
Yeah.
This is my belief. So I think we have to change that to, okay, that's fine. This is what you believe, but what supports that belief? We have to start asking the questions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for a long time, at least for myself, the liberal Democrat side here, that we have been kind of quiet because we're just kind of living our life and not really worrying about these people. But they're uprising. You know, they make their voices known, and I see with some of my Republican friends, you know, posting the nonsense that could be so easily refuted, and I go down the list and I say, this is the reason why this is the reason why that, and here's this. Well, I don't believe that's true.
Yeah.
I just presented you with actual facts.
Yeah. Well, I just reject it.
Well, but they take it to that next level and they say, well, that's your opinion. No, it's not my opinion. This is actual figure. Here's the real numbers. Yeah. Okay, but they can't. Just like you said, their belief is so strong in what they know, and a lot of it, I hate to say, comes from a bringing up of religious beliefs, in my opinion. Yeah. Because when I was growing up, you essentially were Republican. You were conservative Republican. That's just the way you were, and you believed whatever the Republicans said. And even in church, when it came election time, they couldn't talk about which candidate to.
Very careful.
They couldn't talk about which candidate to vote for, but they certainly handed out what each candidate stood for and made sure that that abortion issue was right at the top. You know, so like you said, the belief. If someone believes something, that's it.
Good luck shaking it. Good
luck.
Yeah, it's you know, and it's a really interesting way to look at the world when, you know, when you see people like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly, and they do not espouse what their opinions are as anything but a belief. I mean, you're in the church with Rush. This is what he believes. You know, this is not his opinion. This is not, you know, he doesn't have anybody on that argues with him. I mean, O'Reilly does, but he's just rude to him and cuts their microphone and whatever, you know. But most of it is just fluff, grist for the mill. And all they do is they reinforce their belief systems. Then they get out among people who, you know, challenge their belief system. Okay, and the belief system, like you said, Tom, get them young, get them in the pews, teach them how to think. First of all, indoctrinate them in how to think, and then they believe. So I think you're looking at a chain, you know, starting with what you were talking about, you know, Marilyn, with the subjugation of civil rights, of abortion rights, of, you know, I mean, everything that I see is geared to to dumb down and subjugate the working class. And if they can get 50% of the working class working against the other 50% of the working class, then hey, everything's good.
Yeah.
That's what I see. I mean, it may be a little extreme, but
I don't really think it is. I think right now we're just living out the Republican dream. It started right with the Reagan administration, and we're going to make, we're going to make the wealthy super, super wealthy, and promise the working class this thing called trickle-down economics, and it's a total lie. They don't
because
care.
Of the French Revolution. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, seriously, it's like they complain about how Michelle Obama is the one saying "let them eat cake." And we're like, are you kidding?
The first line of that sentence is, "The peasants have no bread." Marie Antoinette's answer is, "Well, then let them eat cake," as if to say, "Well, that's fine. They got no bread. Ha ha ha."
Yeah.
People only know a part of that story, so the part that Sean Hannity tells them.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the one thing that I cannot stand is they'll bring it to a point and then not actually listen to the beginning of it or the end of it to prove a point, and it's just a half truth, and they don't give the full details of the story. And I remember one time watching, my dad was like, "Look at this! Look how arrogant Al Gore is talking to the committee about global warming." And they cut to this piece where a senator asked him a question, right? And Al Gore's like, and then they cut to another scene where he answers the question. I'm like, that seems like a strange cut. Let's go to C-SPAN and take a look and see what actually happened.
Footage. Yeah.
You know, it's
exactly.
It's just all trickery when it comes to. They do it really well. It seems. You know, they seem to really have a good handle on. Almost 50% of this country. You know
their audience.
They certainly do.
Yeah.
And we can't go the other side. My dad would say anyway. Well, you got MSNBC. I'm like, well, yeah. I don't just go to one source. I
mean, I like my Rachel Maddow next is the next gal guy, whatever. But I don't rely on it. I don't rely on that as my news source. I certainly don't watch it faithfully. I watch it when I get around to it, and she's entertaining, but she's not.
It's entertainment, though. That's a good point.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But when I need my news or whatever, my main source is the internet, and then look at what they try and pass. Let's block the internet. Let's filter what they're seeing now.
Well, there again, follow the money. The president of Time Warner Cable was quoted a couple of years ago as saying they're not going to use my pipes for free. Most countries have cheap or low cost or even free Wi-Fi, high-speed internet connections, and it's a public utility.
Yeah.
It's regulated as a public utility. Here in the United States, and this is another news problem, is that everyone gets their news from the United States. I mean, I look at Al Jazeera, I look at the BBC.
Yes.
I look at foreign news agencies, and they're reporting a completely different story from the one I'm watching, even on CNN or MSNBC.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a very good point.
I think we're kind of insulated.
Yeah, wasn't it 6 corporations or so own everything?
The vast majority, yeah.
Like 90% of the television that we get access to?
They've done a good job with, for example, blocking Al Jazeera from getting on a cable network, but it looks like they just purchased current TV, so it may be coming. But I've watched their online news, the English stuff, and I'm like, well, yeah, this is more accurate. Even go up to Canada, where they report the actual news story. I think Marilyn, she's lived in other countries. She's probably had some outside looking in. No, why is that?
That was military living. That was like Fox News times 1,000 worse. There were no commercials. It was, this is why you need to love the military here. I mean, literally, that's what it was. They give you all these little history tidbits about, former colonels who died in battle, and they were so heroic, and yay military, and yay George Bush. And that's all I got. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the closest I ever got to becoming the slightest bit conservative, but I think at that point it was more of my own survival and my surroundings.
Interesting.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, it's almost 10 o'clock. Well, how about we take like a 10-minute break or so, or a 5-minute break, actually, and we'll come back and do that. If you guys could just mute your mics up there in the top right, and we'll just go ahead and take a quick little 5-minute break. And we're back, right?
Yep.
Awesome.
Patrick with us. He's got a little masked man there.
It looks like he's trying to take a cell phone picture of himself. That's pretty good. Good stuff. So we're having a pretty good discussion tonight. It's pretty cool. I see. I don't know if you guys see it, but we have a range from a few viewers to 1 viewer to 10 viewers. So we're getting some views tonight, which is kind of cool. Hopefully the discussion is something that you guys like. And gee, I wonder how have we done over on our own Facebook page? We got any new likes tonight because of this? No, but that's okay.
Fail.
No, it's always good when I can message my neighbor and say, "Hey, we're on live," and he's enjoying the show as well tonight too. So, and I know he probably would actually like to join in on some of these discussions because they're pretty much right up his alley, which is kind of cool. So, let's see, what haven't we discussed tonight? Sexuality. We got some of the economy stuff. I don't think we went too much into the creating jobs and corporate tax breaks and things of that nature. Unfortunately, I've worked in a few different places over the years. I recently took a new job, and even there's layoffs that are happening. Even my previous place of employment, we've had quite a few layoffs, multiple departments cut. And even layoffs that occurred the same year that the executives got bonuses. And from my standpoint and my point of view, unfortunately, I think that in any year that you're going to go ahead and lay off 30% of your workforce, you shouldn't be getting a bonus.
No.
I didn't get a bonus. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just seems kind of ridiculous that that's where it's come to. And I know it comes down to the money. It just comes down to the money. It doesn't come down to the people. And just the other day, we had some layoffs where I'm at, and I'm still there, which is cool. But one of my coworkers, we were having a discussion about it, and 68 people lost their jobs, but yet they could have reduced costs with infrastructure and projects that are not going to do any good for anyone. But now these 68 people have to fight for their own livelihood, while the top branch, the top executives are going to go ahead and still get their bonuses this year. It's just not an equal playing field. It used to be, like my father would say, he worked for 32 years at the same job. Just not that way anymore. It'd be nice to have
that kind of job security today.
It's just not that way anymore. And even for myself, as I'm in an area that pays fairly well. I work with computer, systems and very unique systems. But even myself, as I start to get some increases in pay, I'm thinking I don't want to make too much where I'm going to get laid off because I make too much, and I'm not saying like I make too much as in 6 figures, just enough to where they're saying, if we get rid of this guy on the balance sheet, it's going to save us.
Yeah.
X amount of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah. I was fired to save my school district $7,000. I'm a teacher, and I think I came in on a step 5, and I would have happily renegotiated and said, you know what, put me down to a step 1. I don't care, but unfortunately, that's just not the way it works. When you're a teacher, the union does your does all your negotiating for you. And I was in my 3rd year, and it was very easy to, lay me off or fire me, really, is what they did, because I was still on probation.
Yeah.
So, it was, well, she's a step 5, we're paying her all this money when we could just hire somebody right out of college and pay them $7,000 less.
Now, Marilyn, weren't you mentioning that it was like the 7th teacher in like 20-some years in that position?
Yes. So like every 3 years before they could get tenured, fired, and back in. But it seems like the one that's in there now has stuck. It sounds like she did get tenured. But along with her getting tenured, the superintendent and principal, both of that school, do not work there anymore. So seems like the powers that be just, she's one of the lucky ones that was able to do it.
Right, but you didn't go into teaching because you were going to get rich teaching, did you?
No. No, absolutely not. It's just I love teaching.
Said no teacher ever.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I get summers off, so cool. No, it's not like that. It's just I love teaching, and I'm a music teacher. Music has been my passion since I was very small, and it's just something I've always excelled at. I'm very good at it, and the sad truth of the matter, and this is another issue that does need to be addressed, is that when I was working, I had 2 small children in full-time daycare. And after I was laid off and I was collecting unemployment and not sending those 2 children to daycare, I actually made more money than when I was working full-time. So I would tell people, you know what, I'm gainfully unemployed, because that is disgusting to me that I would take such a pay cut and yet still take home more money, because daycare is that expensive and there's no help for it. And it's not like the daycare providers are making this money either.
No.
It was a state-run daycare. It's from New York State. I'm sure they paid ton of money in their leasing bills for the space that they use, and it's just ridiculous, the costs that are going on. I know Kirsten Gillibrand, our senator, was really fighting, and it's like, you're working at this point to pay for the daycare, so what's the point? What's the point
that's
of
just it.
Yeah,
you're looking at, my kids are grown. I have 2 daughters, both grown, both graduated from college, both gainfully employed, more or less.
Not lucky
I'm
like
a dump
me.
truck driver. Yeah, whatever. I'm a dump truck driver. I get laid off every December. We pave roads in Wisconsin. I have no secondary education. I make pretty good money. For Wisconsin, we are, the least the most undercompensated state in the nation for workers. We have one of the lowest pay rates in the nation, but for Wisconsin, I'm fairly well compensated. I'm off every winter. As I said, I'm not raising kids, but the system is rigged, both for and against people who have children. On the one hand, you're given tax breaks. And being married is an approved thing to do. And it not only gets the social approval from the church and whoever else, but you also get government approval, official recognition. I'm living with my girlfriend, have been for the past 11 and a half years. We get no breaks because we live together, even though we're committed. And it goes to the issue of civil rights. You're talking about gay people. And that's an equal rights issue.
Yes.
And it's as much an equal rights issue for me, being in a committed relationship with someone that I'm not going to marry, nor do I choose to. But if I die tomorrow, have a heart attack and keel over, she gets nothing. Yeah. Except for the 1/3 of my life insurance policy, which is meager. And we were going to talk about some of the issues that were in your letter, and I was kind of looking that over on the break. And one of the issues that you brought up was gay rights or civil rights, and that's an absolutely important issue. And I just like to point out that I think the system is rigged in general for heterosexual married couples, whether you have children or not.
Definitely.
Who benefits?
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I mean, the point of that is rights are rights, you know, and I'm sorry, but they're not necessarily endowed by some mysterious person, okay?
Right.
Rights are rights, okay? And, you know, we've had discussions with, I have a few kids, and had discussions about how, you know, when it used to be like within the civil rights movement where segregation was key, and, you know, they could not have the same bathrooms as the other kids because of a different skin color. And they look at me and think, well, that's dumb. You know, and it is dumb. It's ridiculous. You know, it should come down to the common sense. You're a person. You're people. You're humans. You know, it's not like some person says, oh, for example, the Bible says that homosexuality is a sin. Well, so is pick one.
Playing with your pigskin football.
Right. And you know, you look at, you know, the idea that rights are, we're going to go back to government here and just for a second. The government exists to guarantee people rights. The government exists to regulate business. I mean, it does not exist to facilitate business. We are not a capitalist country. We are a democracy, and people confuse capitalism and democracy on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And I just think that people have lost what the role of government is. The role of government is to guarantee rights. If the South is holding slaves, and you go back to the Second Amendment, and a big part of the Second Amendment was written by the slave-holding states as a guarantee that they'd be armed if there was an insurrection of slaves. I mean, 1776, that was a huge part of the economy.
Yeah.
And if you look at the history of it, and as I said, I have no higher education, but I read pretty good. You know, there are a lot of instances where the state has stepped in and said, you know, and by the state I mean the government, the federal government, and said, look, these kids are going to go to school here. They're just kids, or whatever. Now all of a sudden we hit this roadblock. As regarding gay rights, and the government needs to step up. The federal government needs to step up and say, look, these are equal rights. You don't get to say.
You don't get to say that you don't get this. You can't tell other people what they can and cannot do.
Exactly, based on your belief system.
Yeah, I mean, they need to, maybe they need to just put everybody on an equal footing, because polygamy is the same way. Who am I to tell, you know, somebody that they can't have several husbands or wives? I don't care.
Or boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. What difference does it make? As long
just because I choose not to partake in it does not mean that I have a right to tell someone else what they can and cannot do.
Does that go against your pursuit of happiness? No, it doesn't.
It doesn't affect my pursuit of happiness.
Now, the next step that I hear is, well, if we allow gay people to marry, then they're going to go on to animals. Last I checked,
or inanimate objects.
Last I checked, is they can't give consent. I mean, that's just pushing it to an area where it's just absolute ridiculousness, and it's just to throw that curveball out there. When I love my dog. She's great. I don't know where she is right now. She's probably got to go outside. But
But you can't love your dog.
You can't love your dog. Well, you can.
In a biblical sense, right?
Right.
Yes.
And then that's just it, you know. I mean, yeah, it's funny because it's so ridiculous. But I look at the caricatures that were propagated about, oh God, African Americans when I was a kid. I mean, I was born in 1960, and there were some things that even being from a small town in Wisconsin and looking at in my public education, I would look at and go, okay, I have never laid eyes on an African American in my life, but that can't be right. And this was during the civil rights movement. You know, and I know that the Hispanic population was demonized during the push for the Marijuana Tax Stamp Act of 1936. Everything coming up from Mexico was being brought by Mexicans, just like they're illegal today. And you look at some of these just completely and utterly erroneous stereotypes. Yeah, if you're gay, then I guess the next step is, you know, the barnyard. And you know, it's like, oh, wait a minute, how does that follow? And I just, you know, I sometimes I wonder. I mean, I don't live in an echo chamber, but a lot of the people that I hang out with are pretty well educated in the wintertime. And then I go drive my dump truck in the summer, and I can actually feel IQ points dropping off when I'm talking to these guys. You know, it's like, really, did you just say that?
You know, I was actually in the local grocery store a few weeks ago, actually probably a couple months ago, and there's a guy there who's at one of those carving stations giving out free samples and things, and talking about how bad Obama is, and how the policies that they're doing, and blah 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 blah. Talking to another guy, oh yeah, he's going to take our rights away, and I stepped in and I said, really? You guys really think this is what's going to happen? And of course, I got the look of death from me, and I got the response of, well, we can all agree to pray for them. And I looked at him and I said, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. If you want to do that, that's great and all, but the conversation from an employee of the company that's standing there giving food, free samples out to another guy who came in, maybe they knew each other, maybe they didn't, I don't know. But their conversation just was completely uneducated responses, and you could hear the talking points that they had heard that week from the radio. And if you say to them, gee, I heard that also from Mike Huckabee this week on the local radio station, and said, I don't listen to Mike Huckabee. Well, then who did you get it from? It's verbatim. It's verbatim.
They must end all these things with, just don't tell them I told you. Just deny that I told you.
Didn't come from me.
Yeah.
This is on the DL, people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it, but I do think that we need to address. What do we have? Propaganda-wise on the left, we have very little. We have each other. We have Facebook. Yeah. We do not have a 24/7 cable, and I'm going to make little quote marks in the air, though I hate it, news channel.
Sure.
Fox Noise, right?
Yeah.
Not as successful anyway.
Well, they were sued quite recently about, let's see, I think it was libel. Their defense, which was a winning defense in the United States, was, we're not a news channel, we're an entertainment channel. We can say whatever we want. We do entertainment.
Yeah. Is lying against the law?
It's not if it's entertainment. You know, I mean, if it's satirism, it's protected by the First Amendment. But I don't think we have anything that even equals the juggernaut since the FCC repealed Ronald Reagan. Repealed his cronies repealed the Fairness Doctrine. Mm-hmm. You guys are a little younger. Do you remember what the Fairness Doctrine said?
Absolutely.
No.
Well, there you go.
I'm too young for that one.
Well, the Fairness Doctrine essentially said that I can get on the air and say whatever outrageous crap I want to say. Mm-hmm. However, if you have a different viewpoint, you have to be given freebies, equal time on air to refute that. Anybody with an opposing opinion can call the radio station, the TV station. The Fairness Doctrine was in place from the time that the radio stations started renting the public airwaves from the FCC until the Ronald Reagan administration. When he repealed the Fairness Doctrine, that's when Rush Limbaugh, Charlie Sykes, Art Bellman got his show in the 1980s. Art Bellman is sort of a UFO buff.
Yeah.
But nobody refutes it. Nobody comes out, calls Fox Noise and says, hey, listen, that is a load of horse pucky, and I can tell you why. So I demand equal time, because it just isn't the law anymore. It was the law before, I think, 1981 when they repealed it.
Yeah. You know what I think is really interesting is how often does Fox News get somebody like Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart on there, and they're like, oh, you get away with all this stuff. Well, it's obvious that they're there for entertainment. They're on Comedy Central. You know, but what's really funny is that I trust Jon Stewart implicitly more than I trust anything going on Fox News.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sad.
It is kind of sad, but I guess that's how we get our points across. That's our way of doing the Fairness Doctrine, I guess, to some extent.
Right, but it goes back to the original point, Tom, which is that when it's codified into law. When someone says, look, you don't have a choice. This guy's gay and he works for you, period. This guy's got a different opinion, so he gets to say it. That's the protection of free speech that the government guarantees, and the protection of equal rights that the government guarantees. I mean, I'm going to step off my soapbox in just a second here, but you know, we need to reinforce to everyone, I think, as a solution, that when you see the government, they're not your enemy. They're here to protect your rights.
Right.
They're here to regulate the business so that you have clean water to drink. I live in a city that has cesium in the water. No, I'm sorry, radium in the water.
Oh, wow.
I might as well just give my address now. Anyway, point is, we don't have safe drinking water. We have radium in the water at an unacceptable level, but we know about it. If it weren't for the government and the regulation of public utilities, I'd just be drinking irradiated water all the time. And if it weren't for the FCC, we'd all be watching Fox News all the time. And we need to get into activist mode and change the way that people see the government. Is all I'm saying. Well, I'd say more than that, but that's my concluding statement.
Yeah, I was watching this really interesting show about the presidents and how right after Nixon had resigned, Gerald Ford really was viewed with a lot of ridicule. And before that point, the president was looked at with a lot of admiration and respect. It was a position.
The office.
Yes.
Yes.
And, you know, since that resignation, the presidential position has just been ridiculed by the public. And I think that's a major problem as well. It's like if you look at the president and you say, wow, I really appreciate what he's doing. I think he's doing a great job. They're like, what are you talking about? You're not supposed to like your president. Nobody ever likes their president.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I think W made that so hard for me. Really.
Yeah. But I mean, like even Bill Clinton, you know, he was a really likable guy, and the Republicans went after him because of the sex scandals. I mean, everyone knew that what he was when he went into office.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, it's like it's not like we didn't know who we were putting in office there,
right?
But so the idea that was going to stop when he got to the White House is a little ridiculous.
What's interesting about that, you know, is my dad. I keep bringing my dad up today, but grew up really Christian and very Republican. When Clinton was going in, you know, he brought the morality issue, right? And yeah, we all knew what was going on, right? But when it came time with this, the nominees for the Republican side, his top running candidate was Newt Gingrich. And this guy's been married 3 times, you know? And the second one knew about the affair from the first, you know what I mean? It's like, it has nothing to do.
No, it's just, well, what's interesting now is, you know, Bill Clinton got impeached. And they're now talking about impeaching Obama over the guns. And it's like, yeah, the Republicans are like, impeach. If it's a Democratic president, impeach him. Get him, go get him. But look at what Bush Jr. did there. 2 wars. We don't even. I still don't even understand the point of the Iraqi war. I remember watching that on March 23rd. I remember watching that thing, going, "Wait, what? That was the Taliban that got us. Why are we going after Saddam Hussein again?"
Well, what is he? Iraqi on any of those flights? Not a single. Iraqi. They were Saudis and Pakistanis and Jordanians. So
exactly. Yeah. It's like he keeps, you know, urgent phone from Daddy in the closet, and it's like, well, Dad, I'm not really sure what I should do now. Well, son, go after Saddam. People love you.
Tried to kill my daddy.
Yeah. Prepare to die.
Tried to kill my dad. You killed my
father. Prepare to die. Yeah.
In
you know, even the campaign. I remember that. I was actually on vacation that week, remodeling my bathroom in my first house, and the Operation Shock and Awe. You know, it's like it was so. I remember seeing that and thinking, why are they putting these names? You know, it's like shock and awe. Like these people. Yeah, they're branding it. They're branding the war, and these people who are down there, I'm watching the bombs flying and going off in Baghdad, and I'm thinking, the majority of these people who are affected by this are not people who really care too much about Saddam Hussein.
No.
You know? No. And that was the point where I'm like, what's the point of us going in there? And again, it goes back to, you know, you mess with my dad, you mess with me, you know.
Well, that's just
want your oil.
Well, that's just it. I mean, W. and Osama bin Laden were both the sons of wealthy oilmen. And you know, it was a couple of petulant 2-year-olds. Osama bin Laden was trained by the CIA, obviously, in Afghanistan to do the harm that he did. But you know, to take an act of terror, people died, and it sucked bad. But to use that as an excuse to kill how many million Iraqis, most of whom did not support Saddam Hussein. He was a Sunni, and the majority of people in his country were Shia Muslim. And you know, to persecute war on a country where essentially what they were doing was, it was an exercise in nation building. The Heritage Foundation laid out the project for a new American century, and they specified right down the line, this is what we want, and we're going to do it. And that's exactly what they did. We're going to set up a massive military base in the Mideast. Well, it was a massive failure. It was George W. Bush's Vietnam. But, you know, Osama bin Laden's original beef was, you have bases on our holy land. How is this helping anything? We don't want to talk to these people anymore. Let's just go bomb the brown people. You know, they don't want to talk. It's like, we don't want to talk, we'll just kill them. You know? And Obama says, no, let's find a diplomatic solution. And everybody laughs like he's not being tough.
He's looked down on it, like he's being some sort of wimp. You know, and you know, just I think it was this past week they found out Australia has like billions upon billions of gallons of oil reserve. They found, and all I think is, wait a minute, Australia has oil. We better bring them some more democracy. You know what I mean? It's again, from the right side, it's been, you know, he wants to talk. You can't negotiate with Iran. They've got nuclear weapons. You can't negotiate with North Korea.
Thank you.
You like that?
From the root word nucleus.
Yes. You can't negotiate with North Korea. They've got nuclear weapons. Right, or they're trying to get them, but if you actually look it up, though, what are we talking about as far as the weapons that they have? Are we talking about these Hiroshima type bombs? No, it's not.
You know, I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they have a little boy or a fat man.
Sure.
Maybe it's Nagasaki. Maybe it's Hiroshima. Maybe it's a 20 kiloton yield. Okay, we have hydrogen bombs with 80 kiloton yields, and we have enough to make the rubble bounce pretty much forever. You know, they start setting them off. It's launch on warning. Everybody on the planet can be dead, and they're still going off. MIRVs, multiple independent reentry vehicles. I mean, you know, I'm not nearly as dumb as I look. But you know, let's talk about delivery system. Let's talk about who's got a ballistic missile that will carry a multiple independent reentry vehicle into orbit and then drop it wherever it needs to go. Who's got it? Does Pakistan have one?
No.
Does India have one? No. But they do have, you know, these carts, and they bring their bombs up to the Kashmir region, and they have pissing contests on the border with their nuclear bombs. Okay, well, that's terrific unless you live in Kashmir. And it's just basically, you know, like you're saying, they want Obama to get into a pissing contest with someone. You know, and he's not a tough guy until he does. Bush is a tough guy because he got into pissing contests everywhere he went.
Yeah, you know, and actually, you know, from my own childhood,
but killing Osama bin Laden wasn't enough. Wasn't enough to make him a tough guy.
Oh no! You're Marilyn. Excuse me. That was the Navy SEALs. right? That's where that goes, you know? And, myself growing up with, being a young kid, a teenager, like, oh my God, you got to fight, you got to do this. Every time I walked away from a fight, I gained more friends because of it. Respect. I'm not going to go there with you. If you want to have war, no. If you want to talk about real solutions and ideas to get us to the next generation of understanding, because let me tell you, over there in that, Middle East area, they could use some more. Actually, Iran has quite a few people who are not as what they are portrayed to be.
Yeah, they do. I know Iranians. I understand that completely. Yeah. Yeah, you're looking at a population that, most of these. Look at like the Shah of Iran. Okay, the Shah of Iran was deposed because he was a puppet dictator. Propped up by the U.S. government. You look at how many puppet dictators we've propped up and oppressed the population with over the years, you can understand why these people don't have a lot of regard for the United States.
Yeah.
But are they able to, being repressed, able to differentiate between the citizens and the government?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. We have that luxury. We have, you say Obama's a socialist dictator, a fascist dictator.
Marxist.
The fact that you haven't been dragged into the street and shot in the face is proof that he's not a fascist dictator.
Or now he's Hitler.
Well, so was Bush, though.
He's a Nazi.
Yeah, Bush was thrown out there as that too.
Well, but who actually thought, that we were going to be rounded up? Maybe free speech zones scared me a little bit. I don't know if you guys remember the free speech zones, where anywhere he went, the protesters would be rounded up and put behind chain link fences, sometimes arrested for days without probable cause.
Wow.
And they called them free speech zones because he did not want to hear any opposition to or protesters. And so protesters were put in free speech zones.
Yeah.
Behind barricades, at the very least.
Yeah.
So we have a luxury.
Yeah.
Yeah. We definitely do. And actually talking about free speech, we had, a few months ago, we had the issue of the Chick-fil-A saga that we, with gay rights and things like that. And looking back on it, I remember having an all-out Facebook war with some people, and I actually am not friends with some of them today, but, and talking about how they are talking about that was that guy's First Amendment right to speak his mind about how he feels about gay people and support bills and legislation in Uganda, which essentially would kill gay people, that somehow that's okay, and we're going to go ahead and go out and support Chick-fil-A and buy a bunch of their chicken that's filled with genetically modified whatever, and exactly right. We're going to support him because he has a right to free speech. However,
that's why.
But however, if you turn around and say, "Well, I don't think that was right that he made that comment," well, why are you so against his free speech? Wait a minute. Why are you against me speaking out against him?
I get free speech too,
Yeah, exactly.
And here's what I'd like to know. Where were all these people lined up at Chick-fil-A protecting his free speech when the Patriot Act was signed?
Oh, that's good.
Where were they?
That's good.
Yeah.
Why didn't they care then?
Yeah, nullified, the portions of the first, fourth, Eighth Amendments completely, and countless more in detail. But it just essentially, the right to peaceful assembly was gone. A lot of your speech rights were gone. The right to be, the right of against unreasonable search and seizure out the window. Probable cause out the window. Everything except the writ of habeas corpus, and even that in cases of Guantanamo Bay, special detainees.
Yeah.
And you look at the rights that were gutted by the Patriot Act, and you wonder where these people were Well, I'll tell you where they were. They were sitting watching Fox News, or they had their butt in a church pew.
Yeah.
That is where they were.
Oh, of course. I know that. Just as much as I know that the whole Chick-fil-A issue had nothing to do with freedom of speech.
No.
It had to do with, we're bigoted and we're just going to cover it up with this.
Oh, and how much coded racism is there in the criticism of Obama?
I mean, let's just call a spade a spade, shall we?
Well, but if you do that though, you know, I used to try to think. I listened to these right-wing talk show hosts to be informed, and I listen to them, and they talk about how, you know, we're saying that they're racist, and I'm like, you know, yeah, let me go ahead and see if I can see this, and over the course of time, it only comes back down to one thing: the guy is half black, and I can't understand any other reason why someone would hate him so much.
Mm-hmm.
With no argument, nothing that they can say, oh, well, he did this. Well, that's because the Republicans didn't want to do this, or that's because this happened here. You know, it just comes down to, and I hate to say it, I have family who believe this way, that, you know, it comes down to the color of the skin. And unfortunately, my inappropriate humor that I would say is, you know, they would say, did you vote for Obama? You vote for that guy? Like, yeah. But
yeah.
I voted for the white half, you know? He's mixed. He's mixed. He's not black. He's not black. He's not white. You know what he is? He's a human being who ran for president and won twice.
Yeah, twice. Thank you.
Yeah. And not by, like, a couple of votes.
No.
He won by a lot. And I think that speaks bounds about where this country wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. You know, granted, the majority of that is coming from cities, because the more rural you're going to get, the more conservative you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it comes back to getting one person at a time. I don't know, maybe we could do another one of these shows and grab a conservative Republican and be like, okay, let's get him. Just
you know what? All up for getting you know, opinions from other people, other sides, other areas of life, whatever it is. We certainly can do that. I think that would be beneficial to understanding each other's side.
Yeah.
You know, whether or not, you know, we sit here, we're in the, you know, moment of we all agree, but we certainly can get some dissenting opinions. You know.
That's an absolutely good idea. However, since the Tea Party movement started, I mean, I'm really glad that the Klan ditched the hoods and rebranded themselves as the Tea Party. I'm really happy about that.
Now we know who they are.
Yeah, we can see their faces, but I'm still not one to suffer a fool gladly.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's going to be an opposition viewpoint, that's fine. But I'm not going to put up with a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of right-wing talking points from someone who has been indoctrinated, you know, from the cradle to Fox News.
Well, maybe not so much getting somebody who's so far right that it's out of the reach, but, you know, start with who's on the fencer nowadays. I mean, at this point in the game, they're talking about, oh, we need to get those on the fencers. I mean, even with Mitt Romney's 47% comment, I just need to get the people on the fence over to my side. But are they out there anymore? Are there moderates out there anymore at this point in time?
I don't know any, to be honest.
It's
I
like
don't know a single one.
Yeah.
Or less. See, that's why I want to find the rhinos. Get the Republican in name only. I just don't. I honestly don't understand the point of view where it originated with, you know, we're bound in tradition. We want our traditions. That's great. Support that. I want to hear more about that, not the crazy, like, you know, give us our guns and money and we want to fight with our weapons and to show you what we have, and we're never going to use our words. And I think that is the major problem within Congress itself. It's if you're a Republican, seems like you rather fight physically than intellectually.
Well, it's almost a virtue now to be ignorant. It's a virtue to remain ignorant.
Yeah.
And I got into it with someone on a different forum who's also left-leaning but Christian, which is a little odd for me these days. But you know, I said to her, I said, well, isn't it interesting that the country and the little town and the church that you went to just happened to be the only God? Isn't it interesting that the only way to believe that there is just happens to be the one that you were born into and raised into?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. Okay.
No, I was going to finish up by saying that I think that what we're looking at here is a traditional politics of convenience. That is to say, I was taught a couple of things when I was a kid. I was taught to read real fast and retain almost everything. And I was taught to question everything. And if you're not taught those things, then there's a very good chance that you're just going to go along with what everybody else is saying. And that's what I'm looking at. You know, when you're talking about the swing voters, is that who out there is approachable even these days?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're raised that way, that's a belief system. You're not dealing with ideas anymore. You're dealing with a butt in the pew belief system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you know, myself personally, you were not raised to question anything because all the answers were given to you in the Bible.
Yeah. But Tom, you are a convert. You were a Republican Christian.
I sure was.
Republican Christian right there.
Well, then you're our lab rat, buddy.
Yeah.
So, you know, what prompted it for you?
Oh, what prompted it for me? That's a tough one. I mean, you know, for myself, there's quite a time for deconversioning and trying to understand certain things that I was told to believe. I think one day one of my friends who had left the religious fields sent me a book, and looking back on it, reading some of the emails, he was trying to test and see where I was at, and I finally came to the point where I was like, wow, this is interesting. There's really not much evidence that Jesus Christ was even a real person, let alone all these other things. And slowly, when I didn't completely give up the idea of the religious, you know, ideals. I mean, I grew up fundamentalist, but to look on and cherry pick like everyone else did and thought, wait a minute, Jesus wouldn't do this. Jesus wouldn't let this person die in the streets. He would heal these people. Jesus wouldn't do this. So I started turning myself more towards rather than acting like I'm helping someone by going and giving my money to the church who then spends it on high definition cameras and television so they can broadcast it to the internet.
Yeah.
It eventually turned myself into thinking, wait a minute, I can help people directly without having to worry about them coming to a church building or having a computer to see the high definition, wonderful, you know, music and entertainment. It really turned into a show rather than helping some people in need. When your church, a small tiny church in this upstate New York area, brings in $2-3 million a year, and when you look at their balance sheet and you see, oh, they made $300,000 just a few years ago, $300,000 by investing the tithe money in the stock market, I think something. It seems strange to me that you're investing tithe money in the stock market.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That should not be legal.
Well, it is.
If they want to invest, if they want to vote, then they should be taxed. You know, church and state separation are fine as long as the church obeys the same rule. But I do think it's interesting. I think and I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself here, but Tom, when I was asking you about your conversion, I was more or less asking about your political conversion, and not you immediately went to your indoctrination. You immediately went back to, well, this is what I was taught to believe, and I think that says volumes about where the indoctrination comes from. And just speaking for myself, I'm an atheist. I arrived at this at about the age of 14 years old, and I was not through various circumstances allowed the luxury of believing anything. I mean, it was so chaotic growing up that you know, everything was a problem to solve. Everything was something to think about. There were no real advantages to believing what anyone else said, going with the flow. The people that made it didn't go with the flow. But I do think it's interesting that you immediately went back to your religious upbringing, and what I think we were both getting at was, you know, the political thing, where you decided, you know what, I just cannot in good conscience vote for someone that espouses these particular political views. They're just wrong, and I need to find someone that's closer to what I'm thinking.
You know, sorry to go back to the religious part of it, but for me, looking at both sides, I align myself more politically on the left Democrat-leaning side because they actually are more about helping people. And the way I was raised, thinking that, oh, I'm helping people by doing this, no, it really put them down. It didn't lift them up. It didn't help them in any way. And I think that's, I too am an atheist as well. And ever since I have changed in understanding my own life and viewpoint and thinking for myself and actually having my own coping skills to deal with situations and issues that arise, I am way more happier now, knowing that the decisions I make and the way I feel are of my own, and I don't have to worry about it being some sort of invisible person in the sky trying to dictate and trying to say, oh, as long as I give it up to God, I'm going to be okay. No, it's right up here. I have my own coping skills, and I understand how it works for me, and I'm much happier. I am more giving as a person as well. You know?
Right. My morals are not predicated on whether or not I'm going to be punished or rewarded. It's an internal thing.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's internal. And I'm also not a Satanist either, just so you know.
Well, that's the instant.
Because I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I should hope if you don't believe that Satan would go hand in hand with that.
Yeah, it's all out the window. I mean, essentially, you know, the whole fantasy life gets a little drab. You know, but it's to me interesting that the people that, and I'm not talking about atheists, I'm talking about, you know, leftists, people that lean to the left. I'm talking about people that are more open to new ideas, that have, you know, your time among the English was of great benefit to you, young Amish, because you walked away, you found, you know, you found your own path. However, what we look at is that, and as an atheist, I'm speaking about, you know, humanist terms. As I look around and I see all these other people that just want to do good, whether they want to be rewarded and punished, whether they do it from a humanist level. But, you know, I don't think I'm doing anyone any favors by depriving some kids of a hot lunch program. I don't think I'm doing anyone any favors by, you know, keeping this mother from getting affordable daycare, or, you know, having someone sit in their house sick for days on end until they have to go to an emergency room. That's a backdoor, you know, social medical program.
Yeah.
Nobody's benefiting from that. So if we all look at each other, the majority of people do, and try to, you know, be internally directed to listen to ourselves and to each other, rather than the voices that we hear from the pulpit or on the box, or from an echo chamber that we live in. If we walk outside of our comfort zone, I think it's really, really important. And like I said, I don't want some, you know, rabid teabagger sitting and you know, telling me that I'm a Satanist because I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want that. But
it's like, well, who are you to tell me what I am? You know,
exactly.
Like, you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I am not an atheist. I just wanted to put that out there. But, you know, it's just, well, we're all sharing, so I thought I would do. But, you know, that comes from my own personal choice. And it did come with a lot of soul searching and a lot of questioning, which, you know, really, I went through my questioning period right around the time when I was confirmed a Catholic, and I went through that. Do I really believe this? Do I really want to believe this? Do I really want to be kind of stuck with this forever? and I decided that, you know, I'm not really stuck with it. I actually, it's part of who I am, and I am okay with it. Um, and I accept the parts of it that help me to, you know, embrace that humanistic point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it can be a really good thing. You don't have to be a slave to your religion, and I think that that is what is a massive problem. Something our bishop says to us all the time is that the problem is the rise of atheism and atheists in this country, and it's all, you know. And I just want to say to him, you know, that's not the problem. The problem is how many, most atheists I know were at one point put into some kind of religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that religion that they were part of had laid this guilt on them, this enslaving power over them that was
Mm-hmm.
too much. It was too constrictive. You're not allowed the freedom to think for yourself. And I think that's a major difference between the way I was raised with my religion. It was just, use this as a tool to help you if you need it. If you have questions, we're here to answer your questions. And there was never any forcing with it. You know, so I don't go throwing all of my religious beliefs on anyone. Those are my beliefs, and they're personal.
Mm-hmm.
I keep those to myself.
And that from my point of view, that's great if it's beneficial to you, but it seems like there's like gray areas there with that, because for me, it was black and white. This, that, and nothing else. You can't read between the lines in anything.
Yeah. But, you know, we don't live in a black and white world.
No.
We just don't.
Well, it's the, you know, religion is a lot like a rock. It's great when you're holding it in your hand and looking at it, but you start throwing it around and people get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I think that being a Catholic in a small town in Wisconsin is a very insular thing. Mm-hmm. It's a very cohesive thing. I mean, our congregation was pretty much the whole town, 350 people.
Wow.
And you just were. You know, nobody really thought about it. The Lutheran Church didn't do a lot of business. They're like the Catholic without the beer and the pretzels. So, you know, where are you going to go in a small town in Wisconsin? You go where the beer and the pretzels are.
Yay, Catholic drinking!
Yeah, but it was my dad. You know, everybody's talking about Tom's talking about his dad. You know, my dad used to sit around and, you know, are you going to church? It's Sunday. Are you going to church? Well, no. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You're going to church, and you're going to kiss my first girl at catechism, you know?
Yep.
I mean, it was a thing to do before I had read any books. It was not even so much that I became an atheist as I rejected anyone else's view and set out to find my own. And if you arrived at that through your religion, then that's fine. That's a personal thing, and I understand that completely. People think that atheists are evangelical. We're not. I mean, none of the ones that I've ever known have been evangelical atheists. I've never had them come to my door with their little cases and say, "Has anyone told you about the word of atheism?"
You open a blank pamphlet.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever tried to convert me to being gay either. So.
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
You know, I made my decision to be gay on the same decision you made your decision to be straight, I guess. I mean, I'm not. I do support gay rights, but you know, it's like I don't make these decisions based on a bunch of specious information.
Yeah.
You know, they're civil rights, they're human rights, they're other people, they're just other human beings.
Yeah.
And we have such a divisive history as human beings. I mean, first, you know, in evolution, villages, and then towns, and then cities. I mean, they're not called city-states for nothing. You know, war on each other. Well, you say it's different than I say. Good enough. Let's go take their resources.
Yeah.
And, you know, it goes back to what we were talking about. How do we heal this? How do we come through? Oh, my kid's calling. Well, I'm just going to reject that with a message.
Well, we're almost done anyway here, so.
Oh, okay. Hang on one second.
Sorry.
Hi, can I call you back? I'm on a video conference call with the other admins.
That's great.
In a voice.
Here we all kids, right, Bear? It's all good.
Okay, I'll call you back. Okay,
That's awesome.
Love you, bye.
See, that's what's important right there.
Yeah, that's it. She's traveling right now anyway, and she knows I disapprove of talking on the cell phone, being a truck driver while she's driving.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
It's fine.
But yeah, we have to look at how to, put some butts in our own pews, and to do that, I think we're going to have to do it one person at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And go ahead, Marilyn.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that doing conversations like this, we've had quite a few viewers tonight, which is great for our first launch of this. It's been a lot of fun. Marilyn, you have any last words you'd like to throw out there before we head out for the night?
Let's do this again. This is fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think this will be a recurring event. Hopefully, we'll throw it around with the admins and the contributors. But Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, I think that this is a really good idea. I would say that there needs to be. We basically got to know each other tonight. It was a video chat. It was a lot of fun. But if we're going to do it with the other admins, I think we should have an agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I agree. We can definitely do that. We'll be in the chat room area discussing that, I'm sure, at some point. But Marilyn, I want to thank you for your awesome input. It was great. And if you're going to Mass tomorrow, enjoy your meat and blood. Appreciate that. And for Patrick, I noticed you had an awesome picture there behind you all night. And I just wanted to, there he is. I just wanted to add this one last thing for you. There you go. But appreciate everyone watching tonight. This is great. It's the start of something for us at the Liberal Voice, and hopefully you'll tune in next time. We'll post it on our Facebook page and let everyone know. But for now, I think we're going to sign out for the night, and hope everyone else has a good night and a good weekend. Good night, guys. Thanks.
Bye. Good night.